It's not easy butchering people. It's hard work. You know, there's a lot more like me. We're talking to serial killers. Serial killers! New terminology. Are criminals born, or are they formed? How do we get ahead of crazy if we don't know how crazy thinks? It's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. Welcome to the Hollow9ine Mindhunter podcast. Alrighty, welcome everybody to this meeting of the Hollow9ine Network's Behavioral Sciences Division, our ongoing investigation into the Netflix original series Mindhunter, all about discovering how serial killers' minds work, perfect for people like us to pick up and pursue. I'm David Klone, director of the team, and joining me on the roundtable tonight we have author and voiceover specialist, Mr. T.W. Brown, a familiar face from a place called Tangent City for all of y'all out there. We also have coming all the way from Saloon 7 Studios and bearing awesome sweets and refreshments for the evening, another detective on our team and another voice from the world of Tangent City, Mr. C.J. Ripka. And rounding out, returning finally, the Scully to all of our Fox Mulders. Let's say everybody say hi to Jennifer Earp.
Hi, guys.
You guys could be saying hi this whole time. I've been giving you the pause.
No, they're very quiet tonight. What's going on? My
Feels
goodness.
like I'm always worried. I don't know how to do this shit every time I go to start one, and then I'm like, well, all right, I fucking maybe they don't want to say hi. And on the last one, we didn't really say hi, so maybe this one we'll start it up again. We're feeling very feeling very jolly going into this discussion of serial killer town, serial killers. Yeah. On Mindhunter, but this show is very popular. Everybody loves it, and I think that's why we decided to cover it. It can only help us, right? So episode 6, as we were remarking before we got going here in the recording, a short episode for the season, the shortest of episodes, and I've actually noticed that this seems to be a little bit of a trend with some Netflix original programming. The OA, most notably, is another one that has a very short episode in the middle of it. All of a sudden, it's like we're cranking out 52-minute episodes, 58-minute episodes, and then bam, 21, 29, and 30 seconds or something like that.
Really?
Here we rounded out at 34 minutes on this one, but 34 packed minutes. Every episode of this show feels like so much happens. But then, as I was also remarking, sometimes right before we sit down and talk, I'm like, oh, shit, what happened in this episode? So who wants to begin with what?
Well,
can I just...
Oh, go ahead,
TJ.
You've been gone for a bit. Go for it.
I love it.
We're going to fight. I'll fight you for it.
All
okay,
right.
So since I just got finished watching it, it's very fresh in my mind. But the opening scene with who we now know to be the BTK killer...
Yes.
I'm sorry, but if you live in the middle of Kansas and you're sitting there tying knots you're watching TV every night, somebody gotta say something. That's creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Did you notice the type of
how much people don't pay attention to each other, even sitting in the same room?
Right?
Notice what kind of knot he was tying.
What kind of knot was that?
Was it the same? See, I was trying to figure out if it was the same knot every time or if it was a different knot each time.
No, it was the same knot each time, and I went to my knot chart so I could, those ones that you hang up in your bedroom. So fans know what I'm talking about.
I love he's got a knot chart.
Yeah, I do not have a knot chart in my bedroom.
I said I don't know what he's talking about either, guys.
It's a handcuff knot. It's actually a handcuff knot that he's tying.
Wow.
When you pulls it apart, you can see actually the two bows for the handcuffs. So yeah, it's
interesting.
And it's funny. I remember the first time seeing that one and thinking that he was being a little bit more enthusiastic with it, like almost like he was frustrated. I don't know why my mind added that little embellishment to it, because every time I've watched it since, I'm like, oh no, he is just sitting there calmly. And I think that's I think that is more scary, that he isn't sort of showing signs of a normal person, kind of just feeling accomplished because they've earned their knot tying badge at Boy Scouts. This is like, I could do this shit with my eyes closed, and I'm going to, and I have. We think.
Yeah.
At this point, he has, right?
His whole body was calm, yes, but there was a lot of energy in his hands. I mean, it was really exaggerated. I mean, each time it was just like the snap every time you finish that knot. So I think you pick up on two aspects of it. I mean, he is calm all the way through, but the one part of him that's moving is just electric. So, he's amped up and he's ready to start whatever it is he's about to do. I think that's what that is really showing us, is it's what he's about to do is going to start here and now, and it's going to be ugly. We don't get to see it, but it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, I kind of still, there's part of me that's a little upset that he's not this like made up character that's supposed to be kind of an original piece of this show, to like have their own kind of killer brewing in the background. But again, I think something we probably alluded to last time, TW, when we were talking about it, was that just the fact that this is who it is, and the fact that he wasn't caught until after 2000, into 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. And this show is in the 70s right now. That gives an idea of how far they want this show to go, possibly seasons wise. Like, we've got a lot of decades of time to play with. And again, it probably is why I will keep coming back to the True Detective comparison / analogy, because
the first mention
because that's the best way to have variety in a show like that.
The thing is it'd be interesting, and I had not read the book, but it would be interesting to see if the Tench, Ford, and Carr story intersects BTK, and if maybe that's why this is building up to it, because maybe this is stuff that they discovered. I don't know, because I have not read this book, but if they were involved in this in any way, shape, or form, this could be all information that they had, and they're just letting it sort of slip into the show as kind of a lead up.
Huh.
Maybe
the real life
character,
after he retires from the FBI, is a key expert witness in the BTK case in the late 2000s.
Okay.
But I think what we're going to see, though, is what we're doing is we're just building up. And as we get into this episode, we're going to start seeing another facet of how they're building that. And they're creating this forensics unit, this psychiatric forensics unit. So I think we're going to start seeing how this is all tying in, the stuff that they're finding and the stuff that's going to eventually lead, decades later, of course, but eventually lead to the capture of the BTK.
Well, you see it in this one with what goes on in Altoona and the whole thing with Benji and that little, cousin Rico and
cousin Rico, Uncle Frankie Rico.
Yeah, the trio killers. That's I call them: Uncle Rico, Sissy Spacek, and the Geek.
Wow. I love that we have these nicknames in the bullpen here now. That's good. Very, very True Detective like, actually. And so would be intersecting the BTK in the course of their adventures. So there we go.
When you get to the DA meeting, I mean, it doesn't go the way they want it. So, and again, we remind everybody, if you haven't watched the episodes by now, you're making a mistake watching us. But the DA,
some mistakes are good to make, though, guys. Just still, out there, just throwing it on the table. Some mistakes lead to amazing things.
The DA is telling them, a jury's not going to sit here and listen to all this crap. It's circumstantial. They don't have any credibility yet. They are still on the fringe, and that's what I think this episode really showed us, is they are trying so hard to be, valid. But that DA tells them straight up, no jury's going to listen to you guys. Jury, this is circumstantial.
I also think he was supposed to be lazy. You know what I mean? He's supposed to be one of these, like, I'm a DA. This is a cushy job. I know when the bad guys are guilty and the good guys are innocent. And who the hell are you guys to tell me? You know what I mean? There's a certain level of, when Wendy Carr has to kind of explain to him the true circumstances. We're jumping around, obviously, folks. There's no expectation of continuity from the beginning to the end of the actual episode. We're going to talk about whatever the hell we want in whatever order we want. Probably why our detective office here looks like Charlie Day on friggin' It's Always Sunny with all the strings and shit. We're just like, oh my god, I don't know. When she has to explain to him, she's playing it very cool and trying to take a very calm and balanced, like, no, let me just kind of walk you through it. Stressors, this and that. And he's like, but a stressor is what now? And it was like very obvious that at some point he was just going to pull that ripcord and be like, okay, well, you know what? Thanks very much. I have to take a phone call. So that's kind speak for get the fuck out of my office.
I agree, but also I think this episode is one of like a transitional episode. It's like they're finally getting the ear of like the DAs and the police departments, but they then have to then translate their knowledge into like layman's terms for the DA so that they can start to get the credibility with the DAs, because like they've got it from like the police departments kind of, but now they have to get it above that, and try and so they can actually work their magic and say like, we actually know what we're talking about, but now you guys need to use it, and this is how we can help you use it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Episode 6 was very much okay, let's move the story along type of episode, because there was a lot packed into it. Little things here and there that were said. They even made a comment in the show where it's like they tied the Altoona case with like the Brutos case and everything that was kind of going on. Like, wow, it seems kind of like a trend. Well, she likes trends. They kind of point back at what we touched on, a few weeks back when we said that, no, it seems like every time they talk to, say, Ed Kemper, all of a sudden there's something like Ed Kemper's case that they're able to pick up on. And now they kind of shine the light on that in this episode of, that's kind of what we're doing.
Well, it's like, Ed Kemper is supposed to be the spark for everything with this show. You know what I mean? It's like it all really comes back to, even for us as the audience, I don't think we're really going to fully understand the potential of what this show is going to be like until that interview happens. And once it begins, it sets the whole thing that we're onto this crazy course where we are at times all of the people. We are tense sometimes when we get frustrated with things. We're holding sometimes when we're looking for layers that might not be there. And then there's the times when we're Debbie, I guess, when we're just like, you know what, dude, let's just get stoned and forget about it and have you know what I mean? And that then leads to these like breakthroughs. There's always these moments of intimacy between these characters and their significant others that lead to these breakthrough moments for them. And some of this is definitely in the next episode. And I keep finding it hard to not let, when we cover these two episodes back to back, not to let them bleed over into each other, because one of the things that David Fincher is excellent at is setting these things up with breadcrumbs through episodes and creating these through lines. In fact, the actor who plays Brutos said the first day of shooting with them was crazy because of how many times Fincher had them do this one scene over and over and over again, and coming in with like notebook pages of notes of how he wants it to be done differently and what subtleties were on and which ones were off. And I mean, this is almost like I get anxious listening to these kinds of reports about this guy. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
Oh, fuck, is this what I'm going to have to do to be great one day? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have to be insane like this. But,
crazy.
It's worth it because this fucking show is awesome.
Yeah.
I probably just derailed any kind of legitimate point we were making there, but we could just pick up on any other areas of what was packed into this 30 minutes. Like, we actually start to see the interaction of the crossing of both of the main characters' personal lives, where they finally have to do the partners' dinner. Tench is like, my wife wants you to come over for dinner. It's almost like you can hear in the way he asks how much she's been nagging about it.
Well, it's funny because this is like the first episode, like we've known about Holden's backstory like this whole time, and now we get Tench backstory and we get Carr backstory, like in the shortest episode of the season. It's like it's like all these first episodes, everybody's like, yeah, but we don't know about the other people in their lives, and then all of a sudden they're just like, okay, well, here's this episode, we'll just tell you a little bit about their backstory, and then we'll just move on to the rest of the stuff again. Like it doesn't feel like it comes up again, and I can't remember it coming up again in the rest of the season either.
Yeah,
I don't.
I think this is another of the moments where they try to humanize. You know, you've got to see more dimension than them just walking in and out from one case to the next. And this is going to give you just a minute to breathe, because that questioning sequence that precedes the dinner, when they just start ask a question, the guy says something, they just grab their box, get up, and walk out.
That is one of my favorite. Oh, dude, I love that so much. That is Clarice Starling, right? You know what I mean? That's them when they're both being like, fuck this. We are gonna play this guy. Because also they're getting tired of the bullshit. And I love the fact that it's like, why'd you do this? I didn't. All right, so you're telling us it's the other guy. Boom. It's like you walked right into that one like a friggin' buzzsaw on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You're head bouncing down a hallway.
That's how you break up a group that, you know, are all being set up in different rooms and questioned, because they don't know what's being said. And of course, when you're all kicking it, you know, in somebody's basement, getting ready to go, you know, do a home invasion or whatever it is you're doing, you know, everybody's going to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to hold my mud if the cops question me. And then, you know, all of a sudden it's like, hey, who's trying to cut the deal? You know, who's trying to cut the deal? So who's going to cut the deal first? So, and they use that so well. I mean, it's a tool that has worked for years and will continue to work. You know, because you're always going to doubt the guys in the other room because you can't hear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it's you know, it's one of those things too that it's interesting that after she confessed to what she did, the sister character is never seen being interrogated again. It's fully just the two guys, even though she is still involved in the being responsible for the death that's being investigated. That Altoona case is definitely one for the books because it also brings Carr into the perspective of, you know, shit, sometimes it really isn't working, and it's not because of anything that these guys are doing wrong, except now the first time I watched it, I did not get this feeling so much, but this time I'm starting to see where she might be a little more motivated to put her personal stamp on whatever version of this becomes famous, whatever book they publish, whatever. And she's like, we have to use this questionnaire. You know what I mean? The very academic approach coming from the professor adjunct who's temporarily running the team, while also considering permanently taking a position, as we saw in the very beginning with the director kind of offering that to her, which I thought is really douche of him because, you know, Holden and Tench started all this by themselves. I think it's really shitty that they keep saying like they can't run this on their own. Like, well, you're not fucking letting them, but I guess it's a kind of a different conversation. Anyway, somebody take it and run with it, please.
This is go ahead, CJ. You've been kind of quiet for a while. I just thought it was the candy.
No,
very well could be.
Well, you know, getting back to what you just finished up on, Dave, with when she initially that whole interaction, well, hey, the job is yours if you want it, type of thing. Now, don't answer me, this, that, and the other. I don't think she really intended on taking it. I don't think she cared about the book. I don't think she cared about any of that stuff until she went back home. And then she looks at it's like you see her looking when they're sitting there having wine. You see her looking from the outside in, like, oh wait, this is their story. I am not even part of this story anymore. So why am I trying to be part of a story that I don't belong in? And it's like you can see that moment, and she does a wonderful job portraying that moment where it's like, yep, it's clear now. I know where my story lies. Then she goes, I don't know if it's necessarily her trying to, you know, put her stamp on it as far as those questions go. I understand what she was talking about when she's like, well, we have to have some kind of checks and balances. We have to have a way that we can measure this by, because if we keep going off the way we are, just everybody just kind of, I feel like doing this today. You know, you're not going to you don't have any anything to measure the next person by.
Well, not only that, but if you ask 7 different people 7 different sets of questions, you don't have anything to build on because it's all foundation. So you're not building, you're just scattershotting. And that's where her academic side comes into play versus, I mean, police have to go off their gut and they have to react and respond in the moment. She doesn't. And she's basically guide them and kind of straighten the river out a little bit to keep it from winding all over the place. Because if this is going to be valid and if it's going to hold water later, then there has to be something that is uniform about it. It's like trying to make pancakes 7 different ways with a whole bunch of different ingredients. And they're all going to take
Oh my God. 2 things just came to mind. The first thing is, have you seen this crazy remix of this like Strawberry Shortcake live action show that's remixed with Lil Jon? And it's all about you gotta make the cake by the book or whatever, but it's like cut to be so fucking disgustingly dirty. It's incredible. And the pancake just threw me there. As I was about to say, one of the things I feel like we're discovering here, they're trying to bring it back to some kind of semblance of legitimacy, is Holden also is displaying a little bit of that Anakin Skywalker arrogance, you know, a little bit of a I'm a Jedi and they're holding me back. How dare you put the questionnaire yoke around my neck? Also, quick hi to Jenny Lee, who is watching us. I guess we should send this link out to a few people. Guys, feel free to send the link to this show out to whoever you think would contribute to our conversation as we record live here on YouTube.
I think the other thing that Carr saw at that dinner that she went to with her girlfriend, who was played by that actress, basically had a long run in the original La Femme Nikita that used to be on USA back in the day.
She's not the one from Romeo Must Die.
I have not seen that one, so
hold on.
Remember
No, it's not good.
I think what she saw was when she was looking at her friend in this conversation, she saw her future, and that's not what she wanted for herself. I don't think that was what she wanted, because it was really sort of catfight bitchy is what was going on at that table, and she was like,
I would love to talk about the dynamics of this for a few minutes. I'm glad you're opening this up. I think we should talk about this because all the relationships were on display in this episode.
Yeah.
And again, for the shortest episode of the season, we get the most meat on everybody's after hours, you know?
Yeah.
This is the first episode where they really explore, they really kind of bring to light that she's a lesbian.
Yeah. Oh, for sure it is.
And I think that revelation right there really shows the way she said it. Do they know you're a lesbian? It really shows the ignorance, I think, of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like the way she said it almost in a way was kind of to stab her a little bit. You know, it was because from my understanding, using the word in that way is almost akin to using a racial epithet. You know what I mean? And especially from people who are already intimate with each other. So it was kind of like for someone who appears so esoteric, it was definitely scraping the fucking bottom of the barrel in ways to kind of be bitchy during a personal relationship fight, is what I thought. I may be wrong. Please, by all means.
No, you were definitely not wrong. Definitely not wrong. No, there was definitely that. Oh, well, we're definitely better than these people down at the FBI, and why would you go work with them if you can't be your whole self?
Yeah, why would you go government sector? Those people are all idiots because they're part of the government, you know.
Exactly.
And it's like, ignore all the, you know. I don't care what branch of the government you're a part of, the degree of education you had to go through to reach that level, and the life you had to live up to that point. I mean, say what you want, but I mean, they can't be complete idiots. They're definitely not Jethro sitting on the back porch, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how she was.
Oh.
I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to pull up the actress's name.
The political structure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying these people had to get educations to get where they're at.
I actually wasn't referring to the political structure whatsoever. I was talking more like the guys that just sign their name on their ASVAB and they make them infantry guys. I was talking more.
I remember when I took mine.
Yeah. Anyway.
Lena Olin. Is it Lena Olin?
Lena Olin. I was. Damn it, Dave! I almost got it right before you. I had it pulled up.
5 seconds. I'm like, hold on. IMDb. It's because I knew she was in Romeo Must Bleeding. Romeo is Bleeding with Gary Oldman. This is a '90s movie, and this is why y'all need '90s knowledge out there. By the way, just to let y'all friggin' know. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, she's amazing. She's got a huge line. I was going to say line of credit. That's not correct at all.
Oh my god, a line of credit, otherwise known as a repertoire of work.
Yeah, like huge.
Hey, look, I show you
She's
guys
amazing.
the suckers, and you guys got contact buzzes already.
That's what happens. What happens on Mindhunter? It was the time, man.
gosh.
We're like Holden's girlfriend, chilling out, figuring
Okay,
things
but
out.
was she also her boss as well? Like, were they like
Oh.
was
No,
it just
I
same
think
at the
they were
university?
colleagues. I think they
Just
were
colleagues at the
colleagues,
university, okay.
and she was letting her know you're going to get tenure in 3 months, which means you're going to become an untouchable member of this university. Why would you throw it away to go work for the government? You know, I mean, that was one of the weapons she used.
But there's also
it was so intellectual elitism, though, right?
Mhm.
Right there. Like when
The whole thing.
like right now when they talk about intellectual elitism, that was so it in that moment. You're like, damn, that's just. Why do you? She's like, you said that these people have no intellect. They've reached their intellectual peak or something. And she's like, I didn't say that. You said that. I was like,
they've
dang.
reached the limits of their potential. Something crazy like that. Something very eugenics.
Oh my
god.
It
there was
really,
also
it was really. Ugh.
And then when they go to meet her friends for wine, and they're talking about this, like, you have to live your true self. Like, it was so heavy-handed that she was like, it's all hypocritical. I can't deal with this. At least with Holden and Tench, it may be crude at times. I mean, I guess, and that's mostly in the Tench portrayal, but at least they're honest in it, and they're truly going for the same thing that she's interested in and that she is an expert in. And I think that's why it comes back to this idea of her trying to be so forceful with making sure they do the questionnaire, because she wrote it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, they do need that baseline, and they do need, you know, Holden does need to be taken down a peg and shown that he isn't Anakin Skywalker, and Tench needs to learn a little bit of emotion, and I think we get that from the dinner party.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, when I watched that dinner party like the third or fourth time, what I was seeing almost was a parody of the era. When you're talking about the intellectual elitism, I was like, you know, that scene could play out, and it could have been inserted in the movie Serial with Martin Mull and fit, because to me, this was just. I mean, this was how some of these people in the universities were, because remember, we're post-Vietnam now, and you know, the hippie movement is moving in a different direction, but they feel justified with what they've done, and there's that whole university thing of we're apart from society now, we're better than the regular people, you know, we have right the whole time.
Are we seeing the foundations of all the divisive bullshit we're living through today? Is that what this show really is? Is a snapshot of, like, if you really want to know where it all started, right here. This is it.
Well, and that's what I keep referring back to with this, is it does such a good job of painting the time, of painting that era. It really does a good job of painting this era.
Yeah, absolutely. And how ahead of their time they had to be to start thinking about this in these terms. You know, I mean, to even have a DA kind of show how the justice system wasn't ready for this, you know, that even the concept still, you know, the cop in Altoona is constantly apologizing for how things went. And, you know, he really doesn't understand how to exist in this world yet, but he maybe in season 2 might be one of those characters we'd hope would come back and have advanced a little bit in his pursuit of being able to be a better cop by being kind of like Holden and Tench. I don't know.
I think Ocasek's broken by the end of this case. I really do. When they say goodbye to him after the DA walks away, you see that look on his face, and this is just a dude that's never going to be the same again.
Well,
yeah.
You know, you get those cops, they have those stories, and you see it where they have that one defining moment in their career, and they all of a sudden go down this line or that line. This is that for him, and you kind of see that, and I think he recognizes it as well. So he does feel defeated. He doesn't feel like he won, especially when you look back at his relationship with the female. I forgot her name.
Betty Jean or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah, the relationship he had with her, it was such a community relationship where he had known her his whole life, and all this kind of stuff. And you just see how I'm never gonna win. The good people are never gonna win.
Yeah, he wasn't ready for his small town world to be rocked by the fact that something like this could exist there. And I think they weren't ready for their methodology to not work in a place that small. You know, like maybe cities with high powered DAs and money buying justice kind of stuff, that would make their work less credible. But in these places where it should be very easy to catch the stupid killer, you know what I mean? It was a little bit of a setback for them. I think this is their Empire Strikes Back moment, right? Where they're like, oh shit, we gotta regroup after this.
Yeah, doesn't the DJ even say, "Hey, I got you the best amount of justice for the least amount of cost"?
Oh my God, yes.
Something like that.
Setting up the dystopian future, man. Holy shit. And then he goes, yeah, but listen, before we get out of here, let me get you a steak sandwich, all right? Best I've had outside of Kansas City. And they're like, no, we got to hit the road. And he goes like, yeah, I've lost my appetite. He's just like, you're a piece of shit, man.
I was actually waiting for them not to shake his hand.
Yeah, I was, and every time I watch it, I feel like I forget that they do. So part of me thinks they're not going to, and then they do, and that also goes to show the times of like back then they were all really trained. Everybody in all of I think the professional world, it's like you're gonna have to eat a shit sandwich every once in a while. So when you have to, you just do it and you don't fucking complain. Otherwise, you're gonna have to eat a shit sandwich all the time. It's like very easy formula to figure out.
Yeah.
Well. And finally, I think at the end we see the decision is made that Wendy Carr is going to move down into DC and take over. And again, when she's looking at the apartment, there's all these questions like, "Are you married?" And there are singles activities. For as much of an era as people weren't talking about things like sexuality, everyone was definitely assuming and up in each other's fucking business all the time. It was like unbelievable, Meanwhile, things like the the fact that Tench's kid probably is autistic, and the fact that he will use the fact that the boy won't look him in the eye as a reason to be upset, with their situation and not realize that that's a symptom or a sign of autism. So it's kind of like we see a lot of that weakness of the time, kind of how this would put so much pressure on people. We're probably, at times supposed to think it is amazing that our detectives aren't serial killers themselves. Although maybe that's a secret plot of season 2. Who knows? I mean, that's just a weird way to live. I can't imagine it. Even though I grew up with the tail end of it.
I know, right? It's very strange to look back and be like, oh God, that is how it was.
Yeah, and it's not like it's one of those times that's so far back you'd only read about it in books or hear about it from teachers. Like this shit is old enough that you see pictures in your family that were taken at that time. And as you're flipping through the book, like, oh, so that was us at the beach while BTK killer was fucking tying knots on his couch.
Yeah, I try not to think about that. I mean, it's now knowing that I went through that whole era.
That's fucking nuts. I mean,
I was very cognizant of the 70s because I was young enough to not be obliterated by all of the stuff that was swirling around. So it just, and I would say that it was just the time itself. People weren't ready to believe what we see now. They weren't. They really weren't. And the reason we are so able to consume it at this point is because it's 24/7. No matter how you flip through your TV or what you do, it's constantly there. It's everywhere. School shootings and I mean, I remember living in California. I was in San Diego going to school in the Navy when that guy walked into the San Ysidro McDonald's and started blowing people away. That was the first mass shooting I can remember. And it doesn't hold a candle to what goes on in schools now. But I remember being so set back. And that was, I mean, you're talking, that was 1984, I mean, a decade ahead of this. So I'm trying to imagine what they're trying to imagine as they sit there and realize what people are capable of. Because we just don't want to. We don't want to think people are capable of it. Manson was an anomaly. He's not, there's not one in every, city. Well, yeah, there is.
Yeah, I mean, we keep coming back to Kemper saying there's 35 active, right, in the country, at least by his estimation, and that's just by sheer psychotic telepathy. Like, oh, I can feel about 30 of them out there. Like, fucking Professor X puts on the whatever the hell it's called. Oh shit! Why can't I? Cerebro.
Cerebro, yeah.
Cerebro, and he's like, where are all the rest of me? Where are the guys who like decapitating bodies and fucking the skulls? Where are you?
Oh my god.
There's about 35 last time I counted.
And that was in the 70s. Imagine now.
Yeah.
Oh my god, now. Yeah. Well, there's some interesting things that are going to start coming up in the next episode for sure. We've heard the name of the next killer. They're going to go visit a guy named Brutus, who has I guess in common with the last case of amputating breasts from victims, only this guy had them bronzed and turned into paperweights. So
yeah, he was his own plaster caster.
Wow. All right. This is why we've got you on here, TW. To trip me up with fucking rhymes like that, man. That's awesome.
No, that was a group of ladies back in the 70s that used to go hang out backstage and get backstage and meet rock stars and then make plaster casts.
What?
Yes. Kiss wrote a song about them. Yeah, the group Kiss wrote a song about them. Those were real ladies. They had a collection of plaster casts of rock star penises.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And they were not serial killers, apparently.
Nope, just groupies.
Where are they now?
They all have AIDS. They're all dying of diseases. Sad but true. All right. So I think until we come back to talk about the next episode, is there anything before we leave? CJ, I feel like we've been running roughshod over you, man. Anything that you wanted to get out that we've blocked you on?
You guys touched on it really good with the whole autism bit. This is a time when they didn't understand really what autism was. So the confusion that you see on the screen of why won't he talk to me? Why can't I play with him? He's boring. He's this. He's that. They do not know what the hell it is. They have no name for what it is that he's got. They just it's just weird. And so I think it definitely it's cool to be able to see that from that perspective. Especially with nowadays, the way we're so in tune with autism and trying to raise funds to help the autism causes and everything like that. It shows how far we've come, because as you're sitting there watching this, you think, wow, they're doing this stuff. They're creating this, but there's no real like marker to show how far we've come from point A to point B. And then when they treat autism the way they are, with how we look at it today, it's kind of like that solid marker of, now I see how far we're talking that we're coming, and we're gonna start seeing that. So
there's also the element too of Tench's wife kind of doubting her abilities as a mother, and saying, I often think, wouldn't it have been better if he wound up in someone else's care, and then Debbie says something to her like, I've always thought adoption is like such a great way to take care of somebody, or some shit like that. It was like such a great way to help, and Tench's wife was like, oh, I've never thought about it like that. Like, it goes to show how there's this tipping point happening where capitalism and its moral compass are starting to kind of come into sway, because she was looking at it fully as like, oh, we couldn't have kids, so we adopted. It's like, couldn't get a new car, so we got a used piece of shit, and it works. Definitely gets you where you need to go, but for fuck's sake, it's not really ours, and and then Debbie has to kind of smack her with some reality. It's like, well, he's very lucky to have you guys. You're giving him a good home, and you should. It's a great way to give back to the world. And she's like, oh fuck, I'm such a heartless bitch. Anyway, they're the typical, they're the textbook family, and Holden's the borderline, and I guess Wendy is supposed to be the sort of extreme at the time. So,
well, that's a good way to put that, Dave. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Watch it 20 times in a row. Eventually, the shit will be like right on the surface for you. You're like, all right, 20th watch. I got you, Finch. I got you. All right. Anybody have anything? Let's go around the horn real quick. TW, pimp your shit. What you got coming out? The printing presses are hot, I assume.
Actually, books have been on hold. I've been really focused in the audio realm. I do plan to go back to work writing probably in July. I had to take a break. I hadn't taken a break from writing since 2009, so it was time. But I've been in full-blown production mode in the booth. And, of course, today was beehive inspection day, so I was down with the bees today. So making sure that they're getting some of that honey ready to send to Hollow9. So
Knew I was going to say it, too. No, you know what, dude? We're gonna have a pretty strong presence at New Jersey HorrorCon this fall. So if we had a jar to be making some tea with for all the guests who are gonna come over and live stream with us over there, that would be really cool. It could be sort of like Hollow9ine presents T.W. Brown's Honey.
Yep. That's what we call it.
It's called T.W. Brown's Honey. That's fucking awesome.
It's called Zombie Cata.
Zombie even cooler, dude.
Cool.
HorrorCon is gonna eat that up, literally.
Because I live in Estacada, and that's so people that are local here, that's what they call it, as Cata. And my son's actually designing the logo. We've got an undead bee on the front, and it says "Honey to Die For." So,
dude,
that's amazing.
Marketing genius, T.W. Brown over here.
That's so badass.
Very cool, very cool. Be on the lookout for that, guys. CJ, what's going on in your realm, brother?
Well, as of last week, I finally got my studio back up, as you can see. So last week we had to take a break from Grit and Grace. However, we will be coming back next week. And then the week after that, in 2 weeks' time, Lynn is going to be out here. My co-host, Lynn Burnett, is going to be out here in the Black Hills. And we're going to be traveling through the different areas and doing some pretty cool shows from like Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse and the Crystal Caverns. And we're going to show the beauty of the Black Hills on Grit and Grace.
Nice little road show episode or two. That's awesome, man. Very cool. Jennifer Earp, what is going on in your world? It's been all kinds of barbecues and ball games.
Oh man, it's been lots of kiddie stuff this summer, you guys. I have not been podcasting as much as I would like. I need to get with Jennifer 9 and get some more Winona Earp stuff out there, since we have season 3 starting of Winona Earp starting on July 16th here in the US, and then July 20th everywhere else. I think, yes. We've got a couple. There's some of the trailers dropped this past week, so that's been going crazy on Twitter and Facebook and all that jazz. But I need to put some more content out for Winona, so it'll be soon, hopefully.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for most of that, you can keep your ears locked in at hollow9.com, where we now have players up for all of our shows, so you can stream them right there on the website. You can also find us in all the other places that your podcasts are aggregated, like iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and all that good stuff. So until we come back for the next episode and next meeting of our behavioral sciences division, please try to keep things under control. Do some deep breathing exercises. Don't sit on your couch and do knots. That's just fucking disgustingly crazy. There's enough crazy in the world. We already had one BTK. We don't need another. Watch Breaking Bad. If you have to sit on your couch and do anything, watch me. Or you know what? Even better, watch Mindhunter, the show we're actually here podcasting.
Hey.
and we'll be ready for us next time when we come back to talk about episode 7, a somewhat longer episode than this one. So until then, I'm David Klone, and bringing this meeting to adjourn. So until the next one, guys.
You've been listening to the Hollow9ine Network, bringing you the very best in fan-made media. That's the word hollow, the number 9, I-N-E. Now broadcasting from our new home on the web, hollow9ine.com, where you can find info on all of our awesome programming as well as the team behind the shows. Leave us your feedback, join in the conversation, and be a part of the action. Find the Hollow9ine Network on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. Email us at info@hollow9ine.com or at hollow9podcast@gmail.com. Join in the fun. Hollow9ine.